Hey everyone, Regal Reviews here. It is April 2nd, which is World Autism Day, and it also happens to be my birthday today, so yay! I wanted to make a special video today because I wanted to tell the world that I have autism. I wanted to make this video to share some of the struggles that I've been through, but also some of the positive things I've been through. And I'm going to make a separate video that I'll share who my heroes are and who really shaped me into the person that I am today. And if you guys have any questions at all, feel free to comment down below. If there's enough questions, I'll be more than happy to do a Q&A video. So I guess let's start off with some of the symptoms I have of autism. One of the things about me is that I sometimes struggle in social situations. Like, I struggle making friends, and sometimes understanding not what other people are saying, but sometimes I have a hard time understanding what they mean. Like, I have a hard time picking up on social cues sometimes. And one of the things with my autism is that I have anxiety sometimes, and I guess the best way to explain that is that a perfect example is, like, if the more I wait for something, the more anxious I become and the more I don't want to do it. Like, if I'm waiting for somebody, if I get a ride to go somewhere and if they say, oh, we're going to be here at 6, and if they're not there and they don't show till 6:20, then I start getting chest pains and wondering, like, what's going on, and then the more I don't want to do anything. And that's kind of like at amusement parks. I'm pretty okay at amusement parks, but I really benefit. The less I have to wait in line, the better. It's not that I'll get upset in line, but it's just that anxiety, just waiting and waiting. The more impatient I become, the more anxious, and the more I don't want to do it. Also, big crowds seem to overwhelm me at times. Like, I guess going back to amusement parks, like when I'm in big crowds like that, or even when I used to go on day trips to New York City, that was very overwhelming because all the people are like right there next to you, like really close to you, and I'd be like, oh my gosh, this is getting me anxious, And I would say the grocery stores aren't too bad because they're never really that busy, but it's enough that, like, I just want to go. Well, usually when I go shopping in general, I like to shop, but I don't like all the people around kind of overwhelm me. So I'm the kind of person that just wants to go in, get what they need, and get out. One of the other symptoms I have is that I have a very good memory, and even now my family, when they have to remember something, they always have me remember, whether it's like a phone number or an email or just anything in general. They usually say, can you remember this? And I'm like, yeah, okay. Like, I can remember things, I think up until I was 2, maybe. I can remember stuff up until then, and I, even still from my childhood, like, I have these memories that people might often forget, but I always remember. And even when I was in school, I would of course study for tests, but since I had a very good memory, I always remembered the material, so I did very well on the memory aspect. Um, I guess another big thing is that I have a lot of routines, and I have a routine for just about everything, and so it's not that bad that it gets in the way of my everyday life, but sometimes it can be very annoying. Like, I won't go into all my routines, but I'll just name a couple of them. One of my routines is that I have to make pasta every Tuesday, and I make a very good pasta, by the way. But if I don't make it on Tuesday, then I don't like the taste of it. I won't eat it. And if just say if I couldn't make pasta on Tuesday and I just made it on a Thursday, let's just say, I just don't feel like it tastes right to me. And then if I don't make it on Tuesday, my whole week is just messed up. Then like I don't remember like which day of the week it is. So I even have like my bedtime routine, and I won't go into that, but it's just, if I don't do my routine exactly, then I have to start it all over again. It's just, it could be annoying at times, but I just feel like I need to do that, or else my head just gets all, I just get all confuzzled. I just feel like it's just really hard to explain. It's just, I have to do those routines. So I think that's I think that's symptoms I have. If I think of any more, I'll discuss it more in the video. So I guess what I'll talk about next is my experience in school. Now, I was very lucky, and I had what I would think, in my opinion, a pretty good experience in school. I really loved elementary school, and I always had fond memories there. Everybody could tell that I was different. Like, I was always the quiet girl. Like, I always just pretty much kept to myself. I mean, I was a teacher's dream because I never said a word in class. I never gave anybody any trouble. So I was always a teacher, a substitute teacher's dream. But my mom can always tell that there was something different about me. And she fought very hard to help me get a diagnosis and put a name to what is so unique about me. And she also fought very hard for my rights in elementary school, because even though I was different, I didn't know I was different. I always thought I was normal. You know, I was aware that there was something different about me, but I always just thought that was normal. Like, I remember, I think in kindergarten, I first started going to resource room to get help on test and work in class, because the thing I always had a hard time with, and I think a lot of people have a hard time with, is math. Like, I can remember something that day they would teach me, but the next day I would be totally lost, and all those formulas and all that math stuff in my head, it was just too much, so I needed extra help in that. And also another thing too was reading, and I loved reading when I was younger. Even when I couldn't read, I tried my best to read. My mom always used to read to me all the time. Like, I always begged her to read me like a bedtime story, whether it was like a fairy tale book or any book in general. And the thing was that I didn't have a problem reading this story. I had a hard time comprehending what I was reading. Like, I could read the book just fine, but trying to tell you what I read, I had a hard time with. Like, I could get the the gist, the main concept of the main concept of the story, but I had a hard time trying to explain everything else. So I always had my tests modified for I guess all my tests. They were either 50-50 if it was multiple choice, or if it wasn't 50-50, I'd have the questions modified. So they were the same, but they were changed so that I could understand them. And then I think it was always short answer questions I'd always struggle with, because I'd always give, when it said short answer, I would literally give a short answer, maybe give like a sentence. So that also has to do with what I just said about the whole comprehension. So I always needed some extra help with that. And even when I was in resource room in elementary school, like, I wasn't really picked on or anything. Nobody made fun of me for being in resource room, and I always thought it was just this normal thing. Nothing really in elementary school stands out as far as struggles. The one thing that kind of does stand out to me, and it kind of had a really big effect on me later in life, was has to do with me and making friends. And I gotta say, through elementary school, I didn't go on too many play dates or anything like that. I maybe went on a few, but not too many. Everybody, well, it was, the town I grew up in was a small town, so we all knew each other and kind of grew up with each other. And I didn't go over to people's houses a lot for play dates, but they all knew who I was, and they treated me nice, and they talked to me. But always when when there was birthday parties, that was a bit overwhelming for me, like having all those kids come over. And there was one incident in particular that really changed me. I believe it was around in third grade when my mom made these handmade invitations. I mean, she was really creative about it, and she worked very hard on it. And when I was passing the invitations out to everyone, this one kid came up to me after, I think it was either while I was passing the invitations out or after. He ripped up the invitation in front of me and said, "I would never come to your party," and laughed at me. And first of all, I felt very humiliated because he did that in front of me, in front of the whole class. And second of all, I felt so bad because my mom worked so hard to make those, and that really changed me, because from then on, I never wanted to have a birthday party again. I didn't want to invite anybody, and from then on, I don't believe I had a party where I invited kids from my class. It was always with my family. And you know what? I preferred it that way because they all loved me and accepted me for who I am. So it was kind of the best of both worlds there. I think when I went to junior high, I kind of struggled a little bit there because I changed schools from the friends I used to know, and I went to this new school, and I didn't really get the help I needed there, and that really caused me to fall behind when I went to high school. I remember, I believe I was in 8th grade, and I was in this, I believe it was either pre-algebra or algebra, and I had a hard time understanding the material. Like, it's very hard for anybody. I mean, like I said, I know a lot of people struggle in math, but it was just very difficult for me, and the teacher was very impatient with me and often yell at me for not understanding what and asking questions. So instead of helping me and trying to help me understand, I was put into a basic math class, which I basically learned what I learned in third or fourth grade, like 3 times 3 is 9, 9 times, you know what I mean? And that caused me to fall behind in math in high school. So that really, I mean, I was always a little bit behind in math, but that really put me even further behind. I wasn't really involved with clubs or activities. I was in basketball, which I loved. I mean, I was not the greatest at it, but I tried really hard. And I remember I was always very, very good at defense. I wasn't the greatest at offense, like trying to shoot the baskets, but I was excellent at stealing the ball off the other team, and I was awesome at that. And I believe when I was in, I think it was sixth grade, I ended up being one of the starters, and I felt like, this is great. Like, I'm part of this team, and it's something that I love. But then when I went to the new school, the team ended up being the favorites among the staff, and they would often tease and pick on other kids. And what I found out was that they were making fun of me behind my back, and that they already had 3 practices and a scrimmage and didn't tell me. And I was very hurt, because here I thought I was part of this team and I felt like I belonged, and they didn't want me on their team at all. So I did quit because I didn't want to be part of that. I didn't want to be associated with them, and I guess it was the right decision for me, because I guess now thinking about it, I remember that I wasn't even allowed to sit with them at lunch. I remember it took me such courage to ask this, but I asked them if I could sit with them at lunch. Well, they told me that I wasn't allowed to, and I had to get permission from one of the, I guess you could say one of the more popular girls on there. So that really hurt, that I thought I belonged on a team, but it wasn't really a team. So in high school, I moved to this brand new town, about an hour away from where I lived, and this brand new school where nobody knew me at all. And that was hard for me, and that's probably hard for anyone to be in that new situation, be in a new school where nobody knows you. And one of the things that I struggled with for high school, and this is actually hard for me to talk about because this is a very dark time for me. One of the things I struggled with in high school is lunchtime, and I think it started sort of in ninth grade, because like I said, I didn't know anybody, nobody knew me, and I had a hard time trying to find somewhere to sit at lunch. And I told my mom about it, and she arranged for me to sit with a friend of a friend's daughter or something, but they never talked to me at all, and I always felt kind of alone. And in 10th grade actually is when it got really bad, because I never told anybody, but I was bullied by this group of boys, and the reason I never told anybody was because I was raised not to be a tattletale, And the fact that I've seen so many situations of bullying where the the person getting bullied stands up for themselves and they're the ones that get in trouble and not the bully themselves. And I was always this really good kid in school. Like, I did not want to get in trouble. Like, I never got a detention. Like, I think I would have broke down if I got even the slightest bit of trouble. And these group of boys, they would call me ugly all the time, and they would refuse to pass any papers or tests to me. They would constantly talk behind my back. Like, I was basically made fun of because I was a quiet girl, and they knew that I was quiet and I wouldn't stand up for myself. And I remember in one incident where we were in class and the teacher, I guess had me. I guess where I was sitting, I guess I was in the middle of the room, and the group of boys were like toward the right of me. And that day in particular, they started to throw stuff at me. They started to throw papers at me. They they even at one point threw a ruler at me, and I felt so alone and so helpless. Like, I had no idea who to go to. Like, I felt really ashamed of myself, and for the longest time that really had an effect on me. Like, I felt very negative about myself. And I guess that was kind of a contributing factor to my struggles at lunch. That wasn't the whole reason, but I guess that was a contributing factor. But I think the big reason why I struggled at lunch was because there was so many people in there, and that was very overwhelming. But the fact that I think it was like the first couple days of school in 10th grade, I tried to sit with people. And every time I would sit with them, they would all get up and they would never come back. And I tried so hard to find somewhere to sit at lunch, but then I thought to myself, like, what can I do? Like, I was afraid to ask for help, so I actually decided to hide in the bathroom at lunch. And I hid in the bathroom because I guess in a way I thought to myself that, because I didn't want to skip class at all, because like I said before, I never wanted to get in trouble. So I didn't want to get in trouble, but then, because I was still technically in the lunchroom, but it was so overwhelming and upsetting for me that I couldn't do it. I couldn't go to lunch. And all through 10th grade, I hid in the bathroom. And it took me about, I guess from the start of 10th grade, it took me about, I want to say 6 to 8 weeks or so till I actually got the courage to tell somebody about my struggles. And that's when I started to get some help with my anxiety. The staff was great. They were very supportive. I would talk to my guidance counselor a lot, and she was very helpful in helping me coming up with coping strategies. And I actually had this one teacher I have to mention, because she was the first teacher that actually took a special interest in me. And I've had good teachers in the past. I think out of all my school years, I've maybe had 2 teachers who I could say I really hated. But this teacher took a special interest in me, and she was aware that there was something different about me, but she treated me like everybody else, and I was the first person that did that. And she kind of took me under her wing in a way, and whenever I was too anxious to be at lunch or too anxious in general, she would have me go in her room, and I was able to talk to her, and and she was able to help me out a lot. And because at that point my anxiety got so bad that, obviously if I wasn't going to lunch, I wasn't eating lunch. So I wasn't eating. I was starting to lose. Got so anxious and so stressed that I started to lose my appetite, and I started to have really bad sleep apnea. Like I would probably get like 2 hours of sleep each night because I was just so constantly stressed, and I really started to get anxiety attacks. And this is the first time it's ever happened. And basically, what would happen is I would get so anxious that my chest would start to hurt, and it was scary at times because sometimes it really felt like I was having a heart attack, and that was never the case. But this teacher happened to be my resource room teacher. So not only did she help me out with understanding my schoolwork, but she really helped me become the person I am today. And she really helped me come up with coping strategies, and she was there as a person to help me during those dark times. And she had such an impact on my life that we still keep in touch today. And I think that's really nice, and I hope that there's more teachers out there like her, because she's definitely one of a kind. So I guess going back to lunch, I don't remember exactly when in 10th grade I actually started to sit at lunch. I believe it was like mid-year that I actually sat in the lunchroom. And that was a big deal that I actually sat in the lunchroom the whole time at lunch, because I never did it before, and the whole staff was so happy. I was happy myself. Like that was a big accomplishment. And I found coping strategies. Like I would listen to my iPod, and I'd listen to songs to kind of tune out the noise and everything. Because at first I was anxious. I still couldn't eat at lunch because I was still too stressed and nervous. But like I said, the staff was very great. The only time at lunch that I think the staff wasn't great is one instance where the teacher I was, talking about, who was great, she said if I ever feel anxious, I could go to her room instead of the bathroom. Well, I went to go to her room one day, and one of the teachers on duty said, no, you're not going to go there. You're going to sit here. And she basically drugged me by my wrist. I mean, it wasn't that far. I think the hallway was here. I was maybe right here, and she was right here. And she said, you're going to sit at this table. You're going to sit here the whole time. And I was forced to sit with these people who obviously didn't want me to sit next to them, and I didn't want to sit next to them. So I think that was the only time that I don't think they handled it well. But, it eventually got better. I was eventually able to sit and lunch, and I was able to eat something at lunch, and it got better. Even after 10th grade, I still struggled a lot with. Sometimes when I got really stressed, I would kind of have a setback and go and hide in the bathroom. But from 10th to 12th grade, I guess from the time mid-year in 10th grade when I sat in lunch to the end of 12th grade, I maybe hid in the bathroom 12 times, which is progress from what I where I was. And all throughout that time, they still struggled to put a name to what was so special about me. Like, I think once or twice a year I would get these special tests where they would have me try to make a shape out of something. They would see how long I could do math in my head, like tests like that. And they would have, I guess, people observing me. And my mom, I guess, was kind of frustrated sometimes because nobody can give me or her any answers. And it wasn't until 11th grade that they were actually able to put a name to what was special about me. And in 11th grade, I knew I was going to have this meeting. Like, I usually had an IEP meeting. I believe it was once a year. And, I was a little bit worried. I was like, that particular year I had an IEP meeting, and then I had this meeting. So I was like, why am I having two meetings? And I think we had this time, I think it was like a few days before the meeting, we went away and we had to stay in this hotel, and we saw this, I guess it was a pamphlet for this movie Temple Grandin, and me and my mom watched it, and it really blew us away because, first of all, it was a very good movie. If you haven't seen Temple Grandin, I would definitely recommend it. But from watching that, I got to see how somebody with autism lived their everyday life, and it was quite fascinating. And that was the first time that I heard that I could have autism. And I think I kind of knew what it was, but I wasn't too aware. And that was the first time my mom says that she thinks I'm on the autism spectrum. And I think I may have heard of it before in the past and everything, but my mom did a very good job in bringing me up to grow up normal. Like, she didn't treat me like I had a disability. She treated me like she would anybody else. And I was, like I mentioned before, I was never aware that there was anything different about me until I saw this movie. And when I saw how Temple Grandin lives her everyday life compared to me, I kind of thought maybe I might have this. And I was very worried going into that meeting because it was just kind of overwhelming because I didn't know what to expect, and I didn't exactly know what was going on because they had this psychologist interview the family, and they interviewed the faculty. Well, not the whole faculty, but my what I consider my support system and me. And she just basically asked me questions about how I am in school, how I am at home, how I live my everyday life, and what are my interests. And from that meeting and from the information I gave her and my support system and my family did, she was able to determine that I do, in fact, have autism and I have an anxiety disorder. And it was kind of a relief, finally, that there was a name to what is so unique about me. And I now looking back at today, like reading all my my IEPs in school from back in elementary school, I'm like, how can they not have known that I had autism? I mean, if we would have known back in elementary school, I probably I probably could have gotten more help, and people would have been more understanding. And but I was very lucky, like I said, because I had an amazing support system through high school, and they got me ready to prepare for outside of high school. And I guess I kind of dealt with, I wouldn't say stereotyping, but some people kind of judged me in a way, because now that there was a name to what I have, they automatically thought just because I have autism, I can't do certain things that I'm clearly capable of. Like, my mom always had this dream for me to go to college, and I know that's hard for a lot of people to leave home for the first time, and I thought it would be too. But I always wanted to go, and at that point I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to do, like, career-wise for my life. And I was told by people I trusted that I couldn't go to college because they never said because I have autism, but they very heavily implied that I couldn't go because I have autism. They said it would be too much for me to handle, that I couldn't do it. They said it would take me 6 years to earn a 4-year degree or a 2-year degree, and they said if I go to college and I'm only going to be able to take like remedial classes or just general classes. And I believed them. I believed the people I trusted, and I didn't go to college, and I regret it now to this day, but I am doing something about it. After high school, I entered the workforce right away, and I didn't go to college because I think at times I thought to myself I'd want to go, but I always thought back to the people who said that I couldn't do it, so I always discouraged myself and didn't go. But it was actually when my cousin, who's the same age as me, graduated from college, and my mom whispered to me at the ceremony saying, this could have been you. And I thought to myself, wow, am I a disappointment to people that I didn't go? And I think it was in that moment I decided that I want to do this, that I want to prove those people wrong who said I couldn't go. And I decided that I wanted to go to college, and I wanted to do everything in my power to get there, because I want to be able to study everything I could get my hands on, because that's where the power is. And college can open a whole new world for me. And I actually applied to college, and I got accepted to college. So if everything goes according to plan, I'm expected to start college in the fall. So I'm very happy because it's a big step for me, but I want to be able to prove people wrong that I could do this, but I also want to prove something to myself as well. One thing that I struggled with all throughout my life was making friends. And I briefly mentioned in elementary school how friendships were there, and it was okay there. I mean, it's actually kind of funny thinking about it, because whenever I would get invited somewhere, like, I would always have a good time. I never had a problem with anybody. But I remember, like, when I would get invited to slumber parties, like, I would always be, this one time in particular, I was invited to a slumber party, and I was too concerned about the new Fairly Odd Parents episode being on the actual slumber party, and I think that kind of had to do a little bit with routines, because I would always watch the new Nickelodeon shows or Cartoon Network shows on Friday, so it's actually kind of funny thinking about that now. But I think I mentioned it in junior high how it was, but in high school I didn't mention. I never made any friends in high school, and I think it's because they didn't want to be friends with the quiet girl, because nobody knew amongst my peers that had autism, and nor did I tell anybody. And I think it's because they didn't want to be associated with the quiet girl, and I never felt like I belonged anywhere, and nobody wanted me in their group. Like when we had to work in groups and classes, I would always work by myself. And there was this one time I remember where I was in this cooking class, and we had at first we had assigned work groups, and they would never talk to me at all. And I think it was in the second semester that we switched things up, and the teacher said to pick your own groups. And while everybody's picking their groups, I was standing there in the middle. Nobody wanted me in their group at all, and the teacher was like getting frustrated with me, saying, "Look, pick a group. You have to go somewhere." And I asked this one group, and they said our group is full. And then I asked the group I was originally in, because I guess they decided to all stay together, and they said, "No, we don't need you in our group." And I started to cry in front of the class. I felt so awful. And then it wasn't until that point that the teacher forced me to be in this one group. And I guess from what I've learned about making friends, well, actually, I was always told in high school how important it is to make friends, and I would sometimes be forced to try to be friends with certain people that didn't want to be friends with me or anything, and that always made me feel bad. And they always said, "Oh, you have to make friends, you have to have like a big group of friends, it's so important." And I actually remember at one time I tried to simply just go shopping with somebody, and I texted them, and they said that they would show up. They were coming at like the time we set, and they never showed up. And I was heartbroken, because here are these people that saying that I need to have these friends, but this is how I get treated in return when I try to put all the work in, but I see no results. And from what I've learned and from what I've experienced, and I actually learned this from the movie Beaches, that it's better to have one good friend that'll last a lifetime, than to have a whole group of friends who want nothing to do with you or only pretend to like you. And you know what? I'm very fortunate now, because I do have, I could say I have one good friend, and she's amazing. And we actually have it's really cool. We have a Beaches friendship, because we live far away, but we communicate through email and text. And we met for the first time, I believe, 2 years ago, which was awesome. And now we're going to meet again 2 years later, we're going to meet again. So I'm very excited about that. But the thing I like about her, and I think why we get along so good, is because that she accepts me for who I am. She's aware that I have autism, but it doesn't matter to her. She likes me for who I am, and I'm in same in return. I like her for who she is, and we're always there for each other, even though distance keeps us apart. We're always there for each other when we need each other, and we have each other's back. And I think that's what a true friend is. I think after I got diagnosed with autism, I was always afraid of being judged. I think, well, obviously most of the staff knew that I had autism, and only a few close members in my family did, and I was always afraid of people judging me. And I know it sounds silly, but I thought people would hate me because I have autism, and that might sound silly, but I thought people would hate me, and it's just all the struggles I've been through. Like, I've been called some pretty mean things just because I don't understand things, and it takes me a bit longer to comprehend what someone's saying. I've been called stupid. I've been called a moron. I've even been called the R word a few times, and that really stings. And I truly believe when they say words, sticks and stones. No, not that. I truly believe that words hurt more than, a punch does. I feel like that hurts more because that's something that other people can't see, and that really does have an effect on you later in life. And that's what it did for me for quite a while. And so I didn't know if anybody knew besides the people I mentioned I had autism, but it wasn't until my graduation party that, first of all, when I had my graduation party, the one thing I said is that I don't want to make a big speech. I don't want to go up in front of everybody because that's something I've always had a hard time with, making speeches and being in front of everybody. And I said to my mom, like, I don't mind what you do at the party. I trust you, but just don't have me go up in front of everybody. Well, toward the middle of the party, my mom was going to give me my graduation gift. And she tells everybody, I forget what she mentioned at first because it's been a few years, but she gets teary-eyed at one point and says she does not let autism define her. And I broke down crying because that was the first time that my whole family knew I had autism. And I was so afraid of their reaction. In fact, I was so afraid that when I went up to open my graduation present, I got the best in the world. I found out I was going to go to Disney World, which was the best thing ever. But I was so afraid of their reaction and so afraid of being judged that I left the building and just had to take a breather. I wasn't having an anxiety attack, but I just needed to, just calm myself down and take a breather. And my mom told me that everybody knew, and I think it was actually my uncle and my mom came out, and my uncle said to me that we know you have autism and we love you. And to hear that somebody loved me for who I am, and they didn't care, that meant so much to me. Because all I've ever wanted my whole life, and I think that anybody else with autism wants, is we want to be accepted. We want to be treated like everybody else. We want people to we want people to look past the autism and see us for who we are. And I can say my family did accept me. And I still struggle on occasion with, I don't think it's that people don't accept me, but I think it's just that when they hear autism, they automatically think I can't do the simplest of tasks. And sometimes I have to speak up and say, I can do this. And I've met a lot of supportive people. I still struggle today with um getting invited to things. First of all, when I get an invitation to something, it means so much to me because that means that I'm included in this. But whenever I get invited to something, I feel like whenever you see in movies when people go to a dance and you have the people that just sit in the corner, I feel like that's how I always am, and it's just too much for me at times. I'd rather just stay home and be in my comfort zone. I mean, sometimes I do go out and have fun, and that's a big deal for me to be out in that social setting. And when I do, I feel like wow, I actually did that. I mean, I look back to all my school years and I'm like, wow, look where I've come from since then. I mean, I'm going to college. I have a friend. I'm made so much progress. I still have anxiety attacks at times, but not too often. I'm more aware now of what triggers my anxiety, so I'm able to control it and able to calm myself down. I'm I'm aware that how can I word this, that not everybody's going to like me, not everybody's going to be accepting, and not everybody's going to understand. And I think that's sometimes people are afraid of what they don't know. And I always have to try extra hard, whether I'm working or I'm working on a project or I'm at home or whatever I'm doing, I have to work 10 times harder than everybody else. And I feel such joy when I'm able to accomplish that, when I'm able to set goals for myself and reach them. I just get this smile on my face, like that I did it. Um, I I think that's about it. I think I covered a lot with talking about my autism and some of the struggles I've been through and some of the positive things. Like I mentioned, I'm going to be making a separate video that I'll talk about who my heroes are and who really had an impact on my life and shaped me to who I am today. And I'll also make a separate video if you guys have any questions or answers. I'm more than happy to answer them. Um, if I could say to anybody with autism, from if I could say anything to anybody with autism, like a little piece of advice, is that it does get better. Definitely you'll definitely find somebody who supports you and likes you for who you are. Even though you may not fit in, never ever be afraid to be yourself. No matter what anybody tells you, you're perfect the way you are, and never be afraid to be yourself, no matter what anybody tells you. And for the people who are either family of somebody with autism or know somebody with autism, the one piece of advice I can give you is that all we want is to be accepted. If we had more people be accepting and understanding of us and treat us like they treat other people instead of treating us like we're incapable of doing things, and our lives would be a whole lot easier. You know, we have goals for ourselves. We need somebody who can help us like ourselves for who we are and help us see our potential. And I think that's what anybody would want out of life. So I hope you guys enjoyed this I Have Autism video. If you guys, I hope you guys can like, subscribe, and until next time, stay regal.